Planet of the Eyes starts very quickly, with us immediately crash landing on a planet that I assume is the Planet of the Eyes. In this game, we are playing as this little robot guy, and the game has a very limbo or inside style of gameplay, and just like those games, we immediately run to the left first to earn the achievement Wreckage. I knew there would be something over there. We also very quickly learn what we're doing here. As we're playing as a robot, we seem to be trying to track down the scientists that put us together. They have spent the last 5 years working on us, and they want us to go and find them and meet them somewhere on this planet that we've all crash landed on. And the way that we know that is by finding these 10 audio logs that are scattered all throughout the planet. This game might be pretty heavily inspired by Limbo, but I don't recall that game having a dance button as we earn the achievement Boogie Time. But other than that, things are quite similar. This game isn't nearly as dark as a Limbo or Inside, but the actual moving around and puzzle solving stuff is very similar. Our next note from our scientist friend talks about how everyone on this trip seems to be a super important person, and it also refers to us as a we, like maybe there's more robots than just us around. That's a little interesting because I don't think we've really seen anything else that's even kind of alive up to this point. In addition to being a pretty different art style from Limbo, this game definitely has some of the puzzle vibes, but the puzzles are definitely a lot more lenient as far as their solutions go. For the most part, there's only one way to solve any given puzzle, but they're a little bit more lenient on how you make your jumps and just the general parkouring around puzzle solving-esque things. You know what? You can actually ignore all that stuff I said before about not making any friends on this planet yet. Look at all these little guys that are buzzing around us. We got lots of friends everywhere. And we fed our one remaining friend to this big monster guy. Oh well, it was nice while it lasted, I guess. Our next audio log from the scientist is a pretty sad one. Apparently, once our robot that we're playing as started to show some signs of life, everybody around the ship started to be a little bit uncomfortable. So I guess the other robots aren't like us anyway. The other scientists came down and attempted to disable us, but it seems like they couldn't quite figure out the technology, which is even more interesting because we also learned here that the person we've been talking to through these audio logs isn't a scientist at all, and instead is the Night Watchman. I guess our Night Watchman clearly outsmarted them all, cause we're still here and kicking. Oh yeah, also, by the way, this game is getting a little bit more Limbo, because look at this giant flea monster that's chilling over here. We scared away with a little shock to earn the achievement Shock Therapy, but that's a little concerning. Also, huge shout out to the color palette, I guess just the whole art design of this game. I love the way that these colors look and the backgrounds and everything interact. It's so cool. We find audio log 4 from the Night Watchman, and he informs us that we should be heading towards that big beam of light in the distance, and he's gonna try to get there and wait for us. Good to have a target in mind. We climb up a pretty narrow and sheer cliff face, but we actually take the wrong path, but it works out for us because we earn the achievement Jump for Fun for getting on this little jump pad mushroom thing in the rain. Ooh, and would you look at that, it's another friend, this big one-eyed octopus kinda creature thing. That's neat. But even after that cool little ride, you gotta remember that you need to stay vigilant, not all animals are friendly here. But our tentacled friend comes through in the clutch and we can bounce on its head all the way up to the next area. We then enter an area with an interesting bit of parkour where I just couldn't figure out how to get past that big red ball, but on an accidental missed jump, I learned that the solution is that our robot boy can actually swim. So that's definitely a good thing to know. And if you dive all the way down to the deepest part of the water, you earn the achievement Bottom of the Pool. So that is achievement number 5, down. And while that little excursion into the water was a fun little taster, now it's time for the real event, and we're gonna have to spend a lot more time down in the water and avoiding these giant yellow snaky things. The next tape from the Night Watchman informs us that he met one of the scientists that tried to disarm us that night on the ship here on the crashed planet. And that scientist informed him that he needs to make it to the signal, but more importantly, we need to make it to the signal as well. But he died before he could give a reason, so I guess we just better head over there. Hopefully it's not a trap. After that, we find a giant, pretty grotesque looking anglerfish, and honestly, for as pacifist as our robot buddy seems to be, we really don't have any qualms about feeding the local wildlife to enemies. As we wander into the next little land area, we see an Eye of Sauron tower in the distance, and this thing is going to be shooting lasers at us for quite a while. And even better than that, it's once again a water area, and there are some improved enemies and some currents that will be pushing us around. Lots of great stuff in this section. So we dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge our way through this next underwater level, and thankfully after this we're done with water for the remainder of this game. Our next note from the Night Watchman informs us that he kind of was ready to give up. He wasn't going to make it to the beacon and find a magical ship that was going to take us back home, so what was the point in continuing on? But then he saw all of these wires and this clear technology that was all around here, and he thinks maybe there's something to this place. And he's definitely correct that there is some pretty interesting tech here. Like, look at these giant laser pointers that we jump directly into. It earns us the achievement Laser Survivor though, so, can I really complain? And this laser pointer puzzle is actually pretty cool. It's a little annoying, but basically you just need to get the 2 green lasers swinging back and forth to hit the buttons that will turn off the big laser pointers, and then you can time your walk underneath them. I died a couple times here, so it was a little frustrating, but not too bad. Emerging out past the lasers, we find ourselves in a cave that has a pretty clear dead end, but for walking all the way down it, we earn the achievement End of the Tunnel. Ah man, I thought I was done with the water, and now I'm actually bringing it inside the building with me? Ugh, cringe. Swimming in the water is probably preferable to dealing with this big monster here, though. We need to collect these balls that he's guarding in order to put them on some pressure plates that will allow us to flow some more water in, and we can go ahead and proceed. We have another pretty sharp drop downwards as we follow a waterfall path, and I've got to say this little area of parkour is pretty cool with the jumps across using the little bounce pads and also hitting and avoiding certain buttons that control lasers. We find some more ancient alien tech where we're trying to turn on some electricity that will control an elevator for us to get even further into the level, where we find another one of the Night Watchman's letters. And this one is also pretty sad. He's telling us about how lonely he is and how he wishes that he was one of those scientists because he's just trying to figure out things that he doesn't understand here, and maybe he wouldn't feel so alone then. Once we get the elevator powered on, which was actually pretty simple, it was just flicking a couple of levers, we proceed to drop even deeper down onto this alien planet, which seems like maybe not the wisest choice when we're trying to get to a tower that we could see previously, but I guess when you can only walk in one direction, it kind of does that to you. We descend so far down, in fact, that we're now in a lava lair. I guess we're at Y11, and we find a minecart that we can ride out into the lava, but that doesn't keep us safe for super long as we earn the achievement Lava Forever for dying in a fire. There's also a section where we're controlling a bigger minecart and we need to time our movement through the lava pools to avoid a cascade of lava that comes down on a set amount of time. And honestly, I spent way too much time here. I failed way more than I should have. It's really not that difficult. A puzzle that I don't feel as bad about failing though is this one, where I thought we needed to pull this thing up in order to stop blocking our minecart, but in actuality we need to push it down, which will then cause the building that it's been supporting, I guess, to begin shifting down, and we need to run all the way out and around it. After one brutal failure, we managed to make our way all the way back out and around the building, onto our minecart, and now that that rubble is cleared out of the way, we can go ahead and press forward once again. Back on dry land for a second, the lava cascade challenges have gotten a little bit harder, and I haven't improved at them that much. Back on even drier and less moving land, we find a little alcove with this weird alien robot head-shaped thing. It looks like it just had wires ripped out of it, and I really thought that this was going to be an achievement. I tried running all over it, doing little dances, but just nothing here, just an interesting thing to look at. We approach the next note from the Night Watchman as we have a pretty scary sight in front of us, a robot that looks just like us that appears to have become super charred. The Night Watchman was a little bit worried that that was going to be us, but obviously he recognizes us because he created us. But then he drops the bombshell on us, pardon the pun, that us and the other robots that were part of our fleet are not just robots, we are in fact bombs. And that makes a lot of sense, you know, when the Night Watchman gave us our personality and we started wandering around the ship, it makes sense that everybody would be a little bit concerned about that. It raises kind of an interesting question about everything that's going on here. He's upset that the scientists were trying to turn us into something that we're not, but he's the one that gave us like a personality, so he's trying to turn us into something we're not as well. The main gameplay here sees us moving through the level trying to avoid these cores that are pulsing full of energy. If the energy touches us, we will explode, and obviously that won't work out super great for us, so we need to make our way to the lever to shut off the core. The difficulty in getting to the levers to shut off the cores is that we're standing on these squares that keep rotating the ground around us. And honestly, this is probably the very hardest part of the game. None of the puzzles are super difficult, but making the jumps between these two particular spinning boxes just gave me a little bit of a headache. The real difficulty here came from the fact that I could make the jump and then would just get immediately fried, and I didn't think about the fact that we could actually just hang on the ledge and then wait for it to pulse and then do our timing a little bit better. So really, I guess that's on me. And right after that jump, we have the final real challenge of the game, is doing this little quick jump where we actually can't shut off the spheres. We need to go ahead and just go for a straight run across, which we finally managed to do. And it's not as tricky, but after that there is another pretty sick jump where you use like the momentum of walking forward on a moving platform to carry you up for a jump that is pretty neat. And we also end up in the energy room, which earns us our next achievement, energy room, as well. And that's really the hardest bit out of the way. We just have a little bit more of the rotating box jumps to go, and we're through the hardest part of the game. And that was actually the final parkour section of the game. All that remains is one pretty weird puzzle that honestly feels a little bit out of place to me. We hit a pressure pad to change over where these different pieces of this puzzle are, but there's really not an actual puzzle to it. You're just lining them up with the outline, and it doesn't really seem that difficult at all. It just seems like a weird way to end the game on, with this being the final puzzle, but I don't know. Once we get it all put together, these beams of light start to come out of it, and I thought maybe this was a good thing, so I jumped right into it and learned that it was definitely not. The beam of light chases us all the way down a path where we are forced to make a last-minute jump into this reactor core engine type thing as the lights around us begin flickering, and we are presumably taken out into space. We get a view from space as we see the night sky suddenly lighting up with a bunch of beams of light with a bunch of ships taking off from the planet of the Eyes. We get some narration from the Night Watchman talking about his experience creating the robot and giving it a personality. This is really a pretty emotional sequence here. It really feels like a parent being separated from their child, the way the Night Watchman talks about this robot. And I mean, he's kind of right, he did breathe life into him after all. There is a little bit of hope though, as we see the final shot of the game is the camera panning up as we see presumably the Night Watchman, presumably standing with us the robot, looking into a city in the distance. I guess this is maybe set up for the second game because there wasn't really any talk about a city or anything during the actual main gameplay. But we have officially finished up the story as we earn the achievement The End. So now it's time to go back and grab the achievements that we missed before, like this one, Death from Above, for dying to one of those lasers. We actually managed to avoid them all the first time through. Next up is Spiderbot, the achievement that you get for running up this wall that you can definitely climb, but I missed out on it the first time around. I actually climbed the exact opposite wall on the other side for no achievement. Achievement number 13 is called Running into Walls, for discovering this little hidden passage. I actually almost did this on accident the first time around, but I just missed doing the jump across. And our final achievement in this game is Secret Pipe, for finding the secret entrance into this little pipe in one of the underwater areas. Pipe doesn't lead anywhere, but we get the achievement and we can officially say that we have done everything in Planet of the Eyes. But how did we do? Planet of the Eyes is a pretty short game, sitting at just around an hour and a half for me to go from 0 to 100% completion. And that was with missing a couple of achievements and going back, though thankfully this game had a chapter select, though we wouldn't have had to play super deep into it to get the remaining achievements anyway. As I mentioned quite a bit early on in this video, this game is very clearly inspired by Limbo. It came out in 2015, so that kind of makes sense with the timeline of producing this after that game came out. And I would definitely say that this game does enough differently from Limbo that it's worth playing. The color palettes are completely different, and it's obviously more sci-fi themed compared to Limbo being just a grim, dark, Limbo type game. The story was actually pretty neat given that it was only an hour and a half long, and you know, this game did choose to do things a little bit differently from Limbo, Limbo obviously having no dialogue whatsoever, and this game choosing to go through the Watchmen leaving notes for us to find and listen to, and we actually had a voice that was talking to us through the whole thing. Overall, I had a pretty nice time with this game, though honestly, I was mostly looking for something that was a little bit on the short side to play for this week because I have just been super busy with work. So hopefully you guys don't mind seeing a shorter game because I still think that it was a pretty cool one to check out. But as always, if you want to leave any comments down in the comment section down below, feel free to, and I will always read all of them. And as always, I hope you had a great day. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. See you!